Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Michael, K4EST, and I am back here in part 2 on the Heathkit model BR-2, and you can see I've been doing a little work on it just from this angle. Maybe not see everything yet, but you can see a little bit of it. So let's see here. First, you can recognize that I have restrung it and put that on. Let's bring this up here, and well, let's just do this. You remember that speaker on the end, like I said before. Let's just do it like this. There you go. I guess it'd be helpful if I had something set underneath that, but so it's not so wobbly, but just a quick let you see that there. I've got this restrung and put back in. This is a real easy one here, real hard at all to put the dial cord on this one. And like I said in part 1, the manual you can download online and it shows you how to do it. Some of the manuals, you download online, it's only part of a manual or pieces or this or that, or just a schematic. This one you can download pretty easy, and it's got shows how to do it, shows how to wire that, or how to wire it, how to string that on there, and it's real easy on this model. It's pretty much direct drive, if you want to call it that. There's no reduction or anything. But let's see what else here. I've cleaned up a little bit here. I mean, it wouldn't, like you remember, there wasn't a whole lot to clean up on this one here. Did change out this capacitor here, clean the volume knob here, clean that up. And that took a little bit of cleaning there, clean, and we'll get back to the top of this unit in a minute. Something I'll go over, but anyway, now right now I've still got the original speaker on it, and you can see it's got that tear in it. I did find another one that's similar to it. Actually, I think it's about the same thing. And this one's got a little bitty hole right there. And since I'm not going to take this one and, like I said, use it for a daily driver or anything, just make it a shelf queen, I may just leave this. I know it's not perfectly restored, but I may just leave that and save that for something that I might, want to use a lot or whatever. And I know I mentioned in the part 1 about this add-on somebody's added here. I left that in for right now, and as long as I'm hooking into it, it's fine. This is going straight across the speaker jacks, or the speaker terminals on the audio output transformer on the speaker here. So if somebody's wanted, where they can plug in an external speaker, but of course that's going to mess up their impedance and all that stuff, and there's no way, it's not shut off. Both speakers are going to be running, but maybe they want to set one around the other side and have some kind of stereo effect or something, I don't know, which of course wouldn't be true stereo. But anyway, so let me turn this around and set it something like this. I'll move the camera and I'll be right back. Alright, so I replaced all these capacitors here, you can see. With modern capacitors, they've all been replaced. This can, you should be able to see that. That original can capacitor that had the 3 capacitors in it. It's still, you can see right there. It's still in there, left it for aesthetics when you look at the top of the unit, but it's not hooked up. You can see I've added some terminal tie strips here and one over here. It's kind of hard to see underneath this capacitor. We're looking straight down on it here, but there's one under there, and that's what I've done to tidy it up, make it so I could put in these capacitors. And I've got one down here and one here. These are the filter capacitors for the power supply. These are 22 microfarad at 450 volt. It replaces the 20 microfarad. And this also had another 20 microfarad in it at, I think, 20 volts or something like that. I don't remember off the top of my head, and it was, like I said, 20 volts or 25 volts or something. This replaced it, and it's right here. And there's no sense, in having it over here somewhere, so I just stuck it right here. Look how little that is. And that's a 22 microfarad 50 volt. I just stuck it right there across on the cathode and ground of this audio output tube here, this 12V6. Let's see what else. Let's see, where is it? This switch was the one that was originally in there, right here. Or it's not original. This is what was in there when I got it. You can see all the black and stuff and arcing that's been going on. I noticed when I changed all the capacitors out and I turned it on for its initial fire up to start checking things, I was getting some popping and cracking, and there's two reasons for that, but one of them was this switch here. And you can see it's only rated for 125 volts AC. I'm going to turn it so I can read it. 125 volts AC, 1 amp. 125 volts DC at 5 amps. Okay. So I had to dig up another one because that ain't what the manual calls for. And, of course, I wouldn't want to do that anyway, even if I didn't have a manual, because this here switch I think is rated for 300 volts. Because there's high voltage going through this switch. And they was arcing in there. I could, see the blue sparks just popping in there pretty good inside the switch, and then I could see it, in this switch here. I could see them in there pretty good, popping around. And sometimes you see a little spark jump out, So I was like, yeah, that's got to go. And I thought, well, first maybe it needs to be taken apart and cleaned or something. Until I got to looking at it, I'm like, that's awfully small. Or, see how flat that is. Oh, let's see. If you compare it to the other one, let me get to where I can see here. I don't know if I can really show this good. Yeah, they kind of look the same, don't they? And this one here's thicker. This distance from here to here, is thicker, of course, and it's rated 300 volts instead of 125 or 350 or something like that. But anyway, let's get things lined back up here. So I'll get back to this here in a minute. This capacitor is just hanging here. Let's see what else. Well, I see one thing I didn't do. I'm supposed to be shooting a video on this and showing people what to do. This here should have been rerouted and down next to the chassis here. And as you can see, I also replaced this plain capacitor down here with this is a safety capacitor, XY rated safety capacitor, which is designed to fail, always designed to fail open. So if this does fail, it'll fail open, no problems. If, like the other one, it fails, and they fail short. When they do a bad failure, they fail bad, they'll just short. And then you're going to take this line and you're going to tie it right to the chassis. And this is not an All-American 5 design. You don't want one of these sides that's going straight to the chassis, so that would be bad. So replace that with the safety capacitor. This AC line coming in really needs to be put down to the case there, but this goes to show you everybody's human, and I missed that. But need to take this, unsolder it, or unsolder something so you can try to get that, that needs to be closer to the chassis, but it'll probably be okay. I've not noticed any noise, but it's just good practice. Put that down next to the chassis. So What else can I tell you? I checked all the resistors. They all checked out really good. Not too surprising since this case. Look how good a condition this is in. Not done really, it's minimal cleaning. So it's probably been kept in a good controlled environment. And these Allen Bradley style resistors are, really good to hold their value anyway over the years. So, and then something else I did here. Let's elevate this just a little bit. This here was this. I can get a hold of it here. This was that piece that was broke in there. It was holding that down. I just took a piece of 20 gauge solid wire, took the screw out, take that off, and wrapped it around it and tightened it down. And most of the time I'll snip these ends off here. I left them on just to show you what and you think if I left that on to show you that, I'd have got this here. Show you, what it is. Just twisted around there so you can see it better. It's just twisted and stuck on there. So did that. And this here, this green wire coming out here, this pair of wires is coming out of this transformer. This is your 6.3 or 12.6 volts coming out for the filaments for the 1, 2, 3, 4 tubes. These 4 tubes, because it's got its own filament, of course, for this 5 volt. This 5Y3 here, 5 volts for it. And it like these here, just coming out, just stuck in midair. And this wire going to this oscillator coil was stuck right in between them. If you go back and look at the video, you'll see it. And it was causing some hum. And so I'm like, okay, where's the hum at? And a lot of times, what I do, if I've got something like this, and I know if you're used to modern electronics, you look at this and say, man, what a mess in here. But that's just the way they did it back then. It's point-to-point wiring. I mean, there's ways to make this look neater, but this is the way it was. And I could have rewired this whole thing, made it look a lot neater. The kits that I built back then, I would make them neater than this. But this is, somebody else built it, and, I'm just trying to restore it and get it back a working. I'm not trying to, make it a showpiece as far as underneath goes. But what I'll do is I'll take something insulated, like this here. Of course, this is half insulated, but take you a piece of something insulated. Of course, with the radio on and going, and of course, there's all high voltage all in here, so you gotta be very careful. If you don't feel comfortable doing it, don't do it. When I'll go around and just sometimes just kind of push on wires, wiggle things a little bit, and see if I can make the noise worse or better. And sometimes you'll find a place, and that's what I did with this. The hum was in there, I'm over dramatizing it, but it was something like that. But you could hear that definitely distinctly make a big change when I did that. So I was like, well, that really needs to be twisted, pushed down next to the chassis. And this wire here, needs to be not in between those, needs to be over by itself. You can see too, I didn't replace some of these wires. It's got where somebody's laid a soldering iron against them. I did replace some of them, but not all of them. So that's something else to look for and do, is that there. So let's see. I turned it on, and that was one of the things. But here's another problem I had. If I have this, you can see this tuning capacitor and oscillator all the way open like that. Everything's fine. I start coming in here, and I'm guessing somewhere right about here it was. You get a loud crack and pop. Even the volume all the way down, it's still just overrid it. It just come through, and it's like, wow, make you jump and go, what in the world? Right in here. And then it would clear up. Okay. And then I'm going on down here, the normal static, or a radio station or two coming in or whatever. And right about here, it would just go silent. And all the way through here, dead silence, except for a little bit of the AC hum. And then right about 600, it would just pop back in. There'd be a pop, and then I'd have just a little bit down here, just very little bit of sound like a normal radio does off station. So this popping and cracking that was going on up here was this here for this tuning capacitor, tuning condenser, the antenna section here. And you see how these, they mesh together. They come in together like this. Here's it tunes, it comes in and out. Well, they're supposed to come in to, if I can get the angle I want on this here. They're supposed to come in real close, but don't touch. Well, it'd go so far, and then they was rubbing against each other. And then it would quit, so that part was fine. Back to some static. But then you get down here and the oscillator would quit. It'd just go dead quiet. So I'm like, that sounds like the oscillator's quitting. Do we have the same problem? Sure enough, both sections of this. This one, I think it was the back one back here, was bent up or something, and I don't know if the guy was, if it was in transit when he got the parts it was like that, or if maybe that's what the problem was. He never did get it going and didn't know enough to do anything about it, and didn't really understand how it worked and just set it on a shelf. I don't know. It might have came that way, or he might have done it, or he might have been playing with it. Ooh, look neat. Check that out. I can take these and squeeze them, and ooh, that's kind of neat. Not realizing that what he was doing, or she, it could have been a she. But anyway, that was that one. And then this one here is about the second one in here. I went in with the screwdriver and flexed them back and forth, top and bottom, until I got it straightened back up with a good pair of glasses on so I could see real close and a good light. And I finally got it where the oscillator came back in. It was working all the way down. The pop and a crack wasn't right here, and everything was working right again. So I just wanted to mention that. So you come across something like that, go in there and check that. If you hit you start hearing a lot of loud popping and cracking somewhere down the dial, but everything else seems fine. Check your tuning capacitor, see if it's binding up somewhere. Or if you just cannot get your oscillator to oscillate, and you checked and double checked your wiring, the oscillator, you went across the oscillator coil, it's not broken, it's showing continuity, everything seems to be right. Check this up here, because if you short this out up here or disconnect this wire here, it's just not going to work. It won't oscillate. If this ain't hooked up right or not, I've got a bad solder joint. So what I did, mentioning that's what I did. I took my meter, put it on ohms. One side I clipped to the chassis. The other side I clipped down right here. I unhooked these wires so everything's completely just open. Nothing, other part of the circuit's in here. And hook it to right down here. Why does that light seem so dim? It's just the way this is getting reflection. But I would go right in there, and that's what I did. And I would turn this and watch that all the way open. Everything was fine. It was infinity. And then as I get to a certain point, the needle would jump up and start showing, it would come back and start showing some low ohms, real low ohms. Continuity, like, that ain't right. Then when I found a spot and then you go on past that, like I said, and it would go back up to infinity or near infinity. So I get back to where that was at, and then I go in here and start moving these until it went away. Of course, with something plastic or non-metallic, nylon or something, and moving these till it went away. And I said, okay, there's where it's at. And sometimes you'll have 2 or 3 of these that might be that way, so it can take some work to go through until you finally get it done. You can take these apart if it really gets bad, and it takes a lot of work, but you can take these apart and check them out and clean them and everything. And sometimes you'll get pieces of metal in there too, or a solder ball or something, or whatever. Or somebody soldering and just dropped a piece down in there, didn't realize it or something, and it's shorting out, you know, a couple of places. So I always check that. But that was a problem there. And the other thing I did, I don't know if anybody's noticed it yet or not, but I replaced these just quickly. I want to take these apart, and I got more time, and go through them and change out the capacitors that are in them. There's little mica capacitors that get that silver mica disease, and I think that's probably what's wrong with this one. It's not acting exactly right. And then this one is not ohming out, and you can see how that's just flopping around in there. So something's broken there or something. So I thought, well, if I do a video on going over these, maybe make a separate video or something, I don't know. So the video's not too awfully long, and I've got some, you know, lots of parts and stuff. And these are two that I pulled out. You know, another radio that was too far gone to restore or whatever. So I'll take parts like this out. Of course, the tubes, you know, tuning capacitors, volume knob speakers, you know, things like that. Anything I can scavenge when I get something that's really, really bad, and put it up, you know, and save it for times like that. Now, when we go through the alignment, if you have the original, it's going to look like this here. So you'll want to come in with some little screwdriver or something. And this one here, it's okay if you use metal, but I'd recommend plastic if you got or some non-metallic if you got something really hard like a ceramic or something. But you can use metal. You know, some of these you can't. Some of them, these coils have got tuning capacitors inside of them. This is just a coil slug. It's going up and down in it. And there's voltage in there. You don't want to go in there with the metal thing. If you touch this and that same time, it's going to, you know, arc out, cause all kinds of problems. But this here will be fine. But now when you come in the bottom side, there's wires going to these, and there is high voltage on them, so you got to be very careful. Another reason you can see with this screwdriver I use a lot is the reason I insulated it. But you come in here, you don't want to come with the metal screwdriver and do that and touch this to that. That's going to cause a problem. So come in real nice and easy. But when you do alignment on one of these, but this one here, I'm going to use one of these. It's a little bit fatter tip on it. That's pretty much it on everything I've done there. So let's do a quick alignment and show you it's real easy. And we'll come back to this. Now also, I've changed these out, but the original one's got a slug in the bottom. There's a little slug, it goes up so far in here, and there's a slug up here, it comes down so far. And you got to screw here and screw here. So what you have to do is you start and you tune one, then come to the top, and then tune the bottom of this one, and then go to the top of that one, and back and forth, you know, until you get the alignment, you know, right on as good as you can. Always want to go through it a few times. And then if you got one like this replacement here, it just takes don't take this, it takes a hex, one of those hex alignment tools. I don't know if you can really see that, but that's hex on the end of that. That fits down in there to tune that one. You don't want to put metal in here. Now these you don't want to put no metal in, because you put metal in, that powdered iron slug, it's just going to crack it and break it if you ain't careful. And if you got one of these like a replacement, this has only got one slug in the middle too. That's it, goes up down. So it's real simple doing alignment on these, just like the All-American 5s. Not a whole lot to it, but I'll go through quickly and show you. You know, then I have everything set up. That's what this capacitor is here for. It's tied to the grid of the tube in there. Let's see. Found that quick little schematic. It's in the book here. So I'm coming in here and tying in. I think it even says it. Let's see. It tells you in here. Pin 7. Yeah. So it says, what it says, and this is a .01. Actually, this is one of those safety capacitors, but it'll work. It says use a .01 microfarad capacitor. Clip to pin 7 temporarily, and then clip your signal generator to the other side. So that's where I'm coming in on, is right here. Okay, and then output, if you use the output meter, put it across the speaker terminals, or you can put it across the volume control knob. And I usually use something, well, here it is, something like this here that I've made up. I can reach in there, clip it on, and then tie my signal generator in. Well, you can't really see that, can you? Tie my signal generator, clip the signal generator on right here, just like that. But you got to use something with a blocking capacitor in it. And they're saying use .01. I like to use a smaller one. This is a small one, like 500 picofarad capacitor, so it just lightly couples into the circuit. But clip it on like that, clip it on like that. And again, if you're not comfortable doing this stuff, don't do it, because this has got a lot of voltage in it. But you clip it on like that. Okay. And we'll come around here, and I need something to set here. So this tin, if not, this here will hit the table. And let's see here. I'll take this here. This is going to my meter. I'll move the camera to the meter here in a minute. And let's see if I can do this. I'm going across the volume control, in case you're wondering what I'm doing. And the ground of my meter. And if you do this way, you don't have to crank it up and listen to it and drive you crazy. Ground the other side. And let's put you on the meter. But you can put it across the speaker, or you can put it like I said, go across the speaker, or you can put it across the volume control knob. The volume control knob, you can see the volume all the way down. You know, you gotta have it turned on, but because that's of course, a combination volume and power on and off potentiometer. If we do this, and I'll turn it on so it warm up. You want to have your signal generator set on 455 kilohertz, and I'm going to use a modulated tone, and I'm going to use the old Heathkit IG42. It's going to have the 400 hertz tone, but you can use 1000 hertz, 700 hertz, whatever you have, however you like. If you got one, you can dial it in. You can get whatever you're comfortable with. Okay. You want to make sure the capacitor is fully meshed. The tin capacitor, like all the way down to 550 kilocycles or below, whatever. Make sure it's fully meshed. But then put your meter on AC, which I've got it set on, and let's just give it some. See that? I think you can see that okay. Hear that tone, but suddenly the volume all the way down, mostly all the way down. I can give it a little more horsepower here. Turn the signal generator up. Alright. So, now, take my tuning tool and start with the first one. That would be the one closest to the capacitor. You see how that's moving? I hope you can see that. But you can also use your ear too. If you ain't got a good vacuum tube voltmeter, you can use your ear just to listen to get it close. See that needle moving up. So right there. And then you move to the next one. And if you've got an original unit, you'll have to go from bottom to top on the first one and go bottom to top on the second one. That looks like the peak right there. And then you want to do it again, and do it again, and do it again. Okay, let me shut that off. Alright, now what you want to do is take that loose. Be very, very careful if I want to do this. I've got this on. I've got this turned around here. Now what you want to do is take your signal generator and your ground and take your positive lead and just clip it on like to the cardboard or something back here. Okay, everybody. If everything all of a sudden looks crazy and strange when that last cut there, this is like 2 days later. So what happened was I was shooting the video, getting almost done. You know, we're almost done with it here. And of course, I usually shut everything down, you know, turn sounds off as much as I can, you know, but still leave phone on when the kids are out or gone or whatever. And make a long story short, got a call. My oldest son had decided he was going to take a bicycle way up on the hill to show out, and well, you know what went from there most likely. Went down the hill, lost control, and flipped over a few times, crashed into a tree. I mean, ain't funny, but you know, boys are. He's fine. Has some scrapes and bruises, a little road rash looking on his leg, except for he did fracture his wrist. It's got a radial fracture, distal radial fracture, I think they called it. So it's been a couple days later now, and I'm going to try to finish this up. And so that happened, and had to stop for that, go to the emergency room and all that good stuff. But anyway, later on today he's going to go to a specialized doctor in that, orthopedic surgeon, and they're going to look it over and stuff. It's in a temporary cast right now to see if it needs a full cast or see what they want to do. But anyway, let's get back to this. So we have lined up the IF. We went through that. And now you have these two little tremors here on the side of this tuning capacitor, or tuning condenser as they would call it back then. I have two tremors here. One here for the oscillator, and one here for the antenna. So to finish up the alignment, what you want to do, and it's interesting, they mention here they tell you what to do here in the manual as far as the RF alignment, but they don't mention anything about setting this here. But it says to take the tuning capacitor, it says turn the tuning condenser all the way to the right, which it is, so the plates are fully open. Adjust the oscillator tremor condenser for maximum indication. Oh, I skipped. Set the signal generator to 1620 kilohertz. 1620 kilohertz. And so what they didn't mention was, you know, some of them do. I noticed this one didn't. You go through and you set this for 1620. You adjust the oscillator here. And you bring this down to 1400. And you adjust and set your signal generator to 1400, and you adjust the antenna tremor. But sometimes you'll find it might be, you know, off from 1400, because you know when you put the string this in, put this on, you want to kind of adjust this on this string here, the indicator here, so that when you go all the way one way, it's kind of going to go a little bit past what it says here and a little bit past at the bottom, you know, go back and forth to it. When you run all the way one end, all the way to the other end, it's kind of centered up. But they're always never perfect. Like right now, if I was on 1,000, right now, if I turn this down to 1,000 or put it on 100 here, which, you know, is abbreviation for 1,000 or 1 megahertz, and I put my signal generator on 1 megahertz, it probably would be off. So what you want to do is once you go through this RF alignment, you'll still a lot of times have to go back down and then readjust this carefully on this string here to get it right. Okay. And then kind of check it. You know, and you'll kind of go through and, well, it's off a little bit here. So you can kind of touch these up a little bit. You can also, you know, on the tuning capacitor here, you can, these little fins, that's why these fins are, got these slits cut in them here. So that you can bend them out a little bit and it'll shift the frequency a little bit. And try to get it, you know, close as you can get it to what it's going to show. So when you're tuning in, you know, 600 AM, it's going to be right on that, you know, line up with 600, and not, you know, 650 or something like that. But anyway, all right, so I'm going to put you back up here. Get this thing back up here. I may have to move the light. Yeah, because that's all right. I've got the tuning capacitor all the way open, all the way to the right. I've got my signal generator set for 1.62 megahertz or 1600 kilohertz, 1620 kilohertz, and now I'm going to turn it up here. Maybe touch it up just a little bit. I've got this across the speaker this time, so it's a little bit louder. You'll be able to see up there. But you come to the oscillator trimmer that's closest to the transformer and tune it for a maximum. I just went way out just to see. And there's maximum right there. And again, you know, if you're like, well, what are you looking for on that meter up there? Is there a certain value or something? No, I mean, see right here, I ain't going to do it very long and drive you crazy, but if I got the volume up that far, that's what it's going to be. You see how I turn the volume? The louder you turn the volume, the more it's going to show, you know. So you're just looking for a maximum. You can do it on the oscilloscope too and look for, you know, the peak. Okay, let's turn that down. Then the next thing we do, we're going to put the signal generator on 1400 kilocycles, and we're going to turn the tuning dial down. So we find 1400, and it's kind of close. I'll have to, like I said, adjust the needle there on the string, but turn it up. Now we're going to go to the antenna trimmer there, and that's about it. See, it's going to make a difference too. Like, I ain't touched nothing on the radio. Turn the modulation down on the signal generator. Bring it back up. You know, all that's going to make a difference, you know. So we're just looking for a relative indication of something that's a little bit higher there. But now it's done. The alignment's done. It's all done with. So now I will get this thing back in the case and let you see it all nice and pretty, and I'll end up the video. Alright, and there she is. Case. Clean the case up. You didn't really see the case to start with. Still got a little bit down there. I missed it. No, I did go over that. This is some glue or something. Or somebody's got some glue. I did some research on these, and you could buy these just plain chassis back at the time without a cabinet, and you could get it. It would come. You can get this front plate. This is plastic here, and these knobs, and then you can make your own cabinet. There's different ones, different ways of doing them. If you look up this, look up the Heathkit BR-4 or BR-2, BR-2. You'll see there's all different. You know, these look different. There's different cabinets you could pre-order, or people would. I've seen some people made their own and put them in their own cabinets, and some really neat ones. I've seen some. I was looking. I always go to eBay and just see what's there, and see some kind of expensive ones, and some really neat cases though. You know, where somebody looks like they've handcrafted some wood, you know, and all that. But so that's it. Hope you've enjoyed the video. If you'd like to hit the like button. If you're not a subscriber, there's plenty more like this coming. I also do stuff like Arduino things and microcontroller boards and all that stuff, and some ham radio things off and on and stuff like that. I've got another capacitor checker coming up. I think an oscilloscope coming up. An old oscilloscope. I mean, there's more things I've got, but let's see what I come up with next. I'm already working on the capacitor checker, but anyway, until the next video, this is Michael, KE4EST 73.